Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Mike Trigg. He is a fiction author and former tech executive. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks, Ajay. Thanks for having me on.
You are welcome to the show, Mike. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We'll be talking about the dangers of AI manipulation and how people can protect themselves and only use AI in the best manner and not use, as you say, degenerative AI. So my first question is that itself, when we talk of artificial intelligence nowadays, for the common people, we talk about generative AI. And you use this word called degenerative AI. Help us understand, when does AI become degenerative and not positively generative? We'll talk about the two books. You can mention it during the discussion, but I'll also specifically come down to the two books that you have written on various aspects of artificial intelligence and social media.
Yeah, of course. Well, you're absolutely right. I think that for a lot of people, the emergence of ChatGPT and other generative AI technologies just over a year ago was kind of a tipping point moment. It was when AI went from science fiction to every eighth grade student in the world could suddenly have their term papers written by ChatGPT. And so I think that was, it's been a very interesting year. In fact, you see AI technology leaders warning of the dangers of unregulated AI development, actually urging members of the U.S. Congress to pass regulatory measures. That didn't really stop any of those companies from going full steam ahead as quickly as they could in their own AI development. I think this is one of those examples where the technology industry can just simply move faster than governments or any regulatory authority can. There's a lot of likening this moment in time to the development of atomic energy and atomic weapons, both for good and bad. It's very difficult to foresee where AI technology will go, but the pace of change is undeniably fast. And I think we are well served to be very cautious in the development of this new technology. Even though I am not a pure pessimist, I should be clear. I think that there are many enormous benefits to AI that will be realized by humanity. So we have to proceed in a way that we can make sure that we get the benefits without as many of the negative side effects.
Right. So let's look at the positive side. People are already talking about a lot, that it will free your time. But at the same time, AI is also freeing a lot of people from their workplaces. And this is just the beginning. Now we expect as much as 40%, but some people say it is just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of people will be out of jobs in the coming days because AI will replace it. So that is one aspect. People will not talk so negative about it, but the fact is that things on the ground will show up or start showing up much more strongly, and we will have to keep watching it. But in terms of manipulation, in terms of making our lives difficult, degenerative, by when does AI become degenerative? As I said, it is just the beginning. And I think we already have seen the good part, but the negative parts we are yet to see. So let's look at those parts which, as you rightly said, governments will no longer have any control, because neither they will understand it, nor it is bound by boundaries of any particular nation. So anyone can decide to operate from anywhere else. Help us understand this part of the degenerative AI, all the different aspects, the way it will impact individuals, the way it will impact businesses, society as a whole, and also the governments which are elected for the people, by the people, of the people.
Yeah. Well, one of the points you mentioned there is, I think, very important, which is we live in an era that really, when it comes to the internet and technology and AI in particular, it doesn't respect international boundaries. So I don't personally feel that a regulatory solution is perhaps pragmatic or realistic, because the technology can kind of just jump borders, if you will, and arguably any country that regulates and restricts its AI technology development might be putting itself at a disadvantage vis-a-vis companies in other countries. So I do think that is a major challenge. One of the reasons that I talk about this subject is I want the average person to be more aware and astute and on guard for the ways that any technology, but AI technology, might be used to manipulate things. This is evolving at an incredible speed, and we're already seeing it being applied in political realms where deep fakes are being created. In some cases, candidates are being presented as if they've said something where they may or may not have said something. That's really eye-opening, and I think that in some ways is both what we need to be on guard for, but I also really worry about that, because I think it starts to erode our sense as human beings of confidence in the truth, in what we're hearing and learning and seeing. If you can't believe your eyes anymore, as might be the case with these AI deep fakes that are getting better and better and better, what can you trust? What can you believe? And that erosion of trust, erosion of the sense of truth, really is pejorative and detrimental to a democratic society. So, I think we as average citizens need to have our guard up, not be naive, understand the capabilities of these technologies, and sort of just always have a little bit of a question in the back of our heads of whether we are being manipulated, whether what we're seeing is real. The other really powerful and potent thing about AI is its ability to scale, right? A lot of scams and frauds and manipulation are numbers games. The fraudsters are just trying to get, they might get only 0.001% of people to believe what they're believing, but if they get enough propaganda, enough disinformation out there, they can start to really change the playing field. And so that's the other challenge of AI, is its ability to ramp up the acts of misinformation, disinformation that might be happening to a scale where even that 0.001% could really move the needle substantially. So, we're entering uncharted waters for sure.
Right, Mike. So how does, you are saying that the citizens will have to keep awake, but citizens have limited control. Once you vote, everyone else is gone. The political, dispensation are busy for the next elections. Everyone else is busy, the whole thing, and we get down to our lives, or saving our jobs, trying to get new jobs, getting busy in our own lives. How can a normal citizen protect his rights when again he is bombarded by all those messaging that artificial intelligence can bring in big numbers? So I guess this whole concept of the people, by the people, is getting challenged by the day in various countries, various economies, various societies. How do you manage that? Who's going to check this particular thing? You talk about about in your second novel, Bernard, is going to come out in April, online political extremism. Help us understand in that backdrop, what have you discussed in that book? What is online political extremism? In that backdrop, how does democracy function? How does the will of the people continue to be enforced onto all political landscapes wherever democracy is?
Yeah, I think that there's a very well, I started my career in Capitol Hill. I worked for a senator in Washington D.C., and I saw firsthand how I was part of the machinery. I was part of the political infrastructure trying to sway votes and influence people, and that's really gone up by orders of magnitude since the 20 years that I worked in Washington D.C. A lot of you have to come as an informed and frankly skeptical person into these domains, and I just thought that that was particularly interesting. I think that we, again, as human beings, oftentimes just look for information that validates our preconceived notions, that makes us believe that what we already believe is the right thing to believe. And I think it's always very important to challenge that belief in yourself, to try to seek out differing opinions, to try and understand topics from multiple points of view, and to not just sort of plug into your preferred, source of news and just take that at face value. And that was really what I wanted to write about in this most recent book, Burner, that you mentioned, comes out in April, and is available for pre-sales right now. Was to look at how these sort of so-called populist movements, where they're really sort of spread online, they have this sort of orthodoxy, almost cult-like following, where it's blasphemous to question the edicts from the leaders. Sometimes those leaders are anonymous. In this case, in my book, which is fiction, of course, an anonymous leader builds a huge populist movement online. And I think that's a very disturbing trend in politics right now, that this kind of sheep following the shepherd sort of moment, where people don't stop, they don't question, they don't check their own biases and assumptions, and just sort of blindly, willfully charge in a particular direction. So I think that can be dangerous. I think it's what leads to political manipulation for sure, and it's what I wrote about in this book.
Right, right. So what is the solution? Who is going to? Because it is not just about the political people who will come there for 4 years, 5 years, but the people who are funding them, who are looking at larger objectives for themselves. What is it that they want? What is it that they want from general citizens? How is it going to be a nexus between them? How does the average citizen, forget about breaking that nexus? Think about how they are going to protect their own lives and live their lives, even if they are not getting into the political scheme of things. How does a common person, amidst this whole online onslaught, especially manipulative AI, that gives a huge power to a huge number of people who want to control the minds of a lot of people for their own purposes? How do I protect myself in these times? Have you dealt about that in your book, Mike?
Not the solution so much, because it's a thriller. So I'm sort of more focused on the downsides than the solutions. But I do think a big trend in online communities is towards authenticity. If you think about, I was at a major social networking site, and I think one of the reasons you saw platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn ultimately succeed is they established a culture of that it was the real you, right? And when it's you online, you're less apt to spread misinformation. You're less apt to do things that might reflect poorly on you as a person. And I think we'll see more of that. I think some of the most blatant examples of manipulation have been with armies of chatbots spreading misinformation that appear to be humans, but in fact aren't. It's in fact a small group of people who are trying to manipulate the conversation towards something that's beneficial to them. And so I think the establishment of online identity, will be very helpful in building trust, building constructive discourse, and identifying and weeding out fake discourse, fake profiles, fake opinions that are really just propaganda is the word for them, right? In a different generation, a different era, we call this propaganda. That is what it is. It is, information that is presented to look as if it's unbiased and impartial, but is in fact pushing a particular agenda. And that'll be really important for all of us as users of the internet, I think, moving forward. Now, what I really haven't seen, and it is discouraging to me, is how some of the platforms that could have been, moving that way have retracted from that. Twitter being sort of an obvious and disturbing example where, rather than them moving towards authenticity, they moved away from authenticity. They sort of let anybody create profiles. They let anybody get a verified badge on their platform for just paying, money. And so that contributes to an environment, an online environment where people don't believe what they see. They don't trust the information that's coming to them. And I think that was a big mistake by Twitter and its leadership.
Right, Twig. Right, Mike. So let's look at the Silicon Valley itself, the tech guys itself, and their responsibility. Do you think they have to relook at the way they have been developing things, the way venture capital has been funding this sort of a technology, and a lot of technology that is yet to come? You are a tech industry insider. You know about this. What is it that you want to show to the public being a tech insider? Obviously, there are not so good things in every industry that you think, but tech is very important because it is the one which is going to show the path towards positive or towards destruction for humanity. That's the way I see it, and I'm sure. So how do you see it? What role can Silicon Valley play here? What is the wrong that they are doing here? What is the right that they can do here? Help us understand. You also talk about venture funds, which has their own agenda. They are leading to a lot of this narrative that is happening. You yourself are an angel investor. How would you want things to go henceforth from at this point in time, so that we all move forward better?
I wrote about this a lot in my first book, actually, BitFlip, which I can't quite get in the camera. There we go.
Yes.
So BitFlip, as you mentioned, I spent 20 plus years as a tech executive here in Silicon Valley. I've been, founder and executive and investor and early employee, just about everything. And many of my experiences, it's still a work of fiction, but many of my experiences are sort of encapsulated in that book, both the good and the bad. I, for the most part, am a huge believer in technology, right? I think that technology has already made our lives substantially better. I believe that about AI too. This has always been the objection to technology, is that it'll take jobs away, et cetera. But in fact, technology generally increases our productivity, increases our quality of life, and is good for humanity. That all said, there are some certainly some cautionary aspects of the tech industry that I think have really come to light in the past couple of years. I think the COVID pandemic, shined a light on that a little bit. And the immense power that technology companies wield. I think, 7 or 8 of the top most valuable companies in the world are tech companies. And so that's an incredible power that arguably transcends nations and governments, right? I mean, these companies are arguably more influential than many sovereign countries, which is a concerning thing in its own right. So I do think that the tech industry needs to, has always had, I think, a good progressive intent of wanting to make the world a better place. You see that kind of moniker at a lot of tech companies. We're making the world a better place. I think it's a little bit of a time to live by that motto and believe in that, understand the negative externalities that some businesses may have, try to understand if and when your product or your technology is being used in a manipulative or destructive way. Oftentimes I find at tech companies, it can be the junior people who have the best read on that. They sort of see things that they go, I don't know if that's quite right. But oftentimes the culture within tech companies is to keep your mouth closed and charge the hill and work the 90-hour work week to get ahead. And those questions aren't always asked. And I think sometimes there can be structural reasons for that too. Oftentimes early stage companies will take venture capital investment, and those are the only members of their board. There's no real fiduciary oversight on the executives in that company, and particularly when those are very hyped companies, that can be a real problem. We've seen some incredible examples with Theranos and FTX and other companies where they had blatant fraud going on, and yet they were valued at billions of dollars. So I think the correction that we've maybe seen in the tech industry, again, the last couple of years, is a really healthy thing in the long run. It's good to weed out businesses that are overstating what they're really doing, and or aren't, don't have a clear mission, clear purpose, etc.
Right. I sometimes wonder, all those people, some of these people are keeping the whole world busy in their phones, busy in the tech, whereas some of the people are building bunkers. Do you think that we are heading towards some extinction event, or what? What's the use of a tech industry guy building a bunker for himself or his family? Help me understand that as a tech insider.
Yeah, there's a scene in the first book, Bitflip, where this billionaire talks about the bunker that he's built in the South Dakota foothills.
But it's happening in real life. We have read about
Yeah.
all the reports that some of these guys are building bunkers, buying large tracts of land. Means and people are selling their land because they think technology will ever take over a lot of things.
Yeah, there's something I think interesting and sort of paradoxical that's happened over the last 25 years with the emergence of the internet, which is the world's gotten smaller, right? We know we have access to all the information in the world all the time at our fingertips. And so therefore, as human beings, we start to think that stuff that is actually incredibly rare at a global scale is incredibly common because we're seeing it on our phones, right? If you really look at the history of the world, by almost every measure, it's getting better, right? Standard of living is getting better. Violence is going down. Mortality rates are going down. Life expectancy is going up. There have been a few departures from that. During COVID, I think we saw in the U.S. life expectancies reduce disturbingly a little bit. But for the most part, we're better off than our parents. Our parents are better off than our grandparents, etc. And it can be, sometimes I think it can be hard to see that. It can create a little bit of tunnel vision where you sort of think, as you say, end of days, sky is falling. It's nothing but bad news out there. The very natural human instinct when you feel that way is to hunker down, protect yourself, protect your loved ones, and try to be preservationist. I think we need to, what is the world population up to now? 7 billion people, I think, something like that. If 7 billion people are going to occupy the world together, I think we need to trust each other a little bit more. We need to start to form connections and bonds that that give us a common sense of humanity and purpose, and diminish, paranoia, violence, etc. And it doesn't feel like that's happening, but I actually think in the long run, I think that is what's happening right now. I think we're becoming, a better society around the world.
Right. That's a positive statement. So I thought, after having written 2 books and having seen things from very close, it will be a bit difficult for you to look at it everything very positively. I don't know why can't these bunker guys able to see the world in that same light. How do you see these two sides of
Ha-
yourself as well as the bunker guys?
yeah, happy endings are never interesting. I like, more dramatic dramatic stuff. I'll make another point on that front, and maybe I'm guilty of this as a novelist, right? Um, you know, I saw this very clearly. As I mentioned, I worked for a major social networking company. We had hundreds of millions of users, and you know, we saw over and over and over again that what people click on is the stuff that sort of worries them, right? If there are two headlines on your screen and one is everything's great and the other is the sky is falling, 99 out of 100 people click on the sky is falling. And so what you get is sort of, in a world where we have privatized news and information, we have privatized, websites, arguably we're in an attention economy where every form of media from social to traditional is trying to get you to click, get you to engage, get you to pay attention. And negative just attracts our attention better than positive does, right? It's just kind of a reality of how the human brain has been wired for, since the primordial ooze. It's the survival instinct in us. And I think that is perhaps again what I think is gradually changing is this recognition in our amygdala that the dangers that are stoked up for us online are now as real dangers. Now, that said, we can't close our eyes to real dangers, right? There are real bad actors in the world right now. You look at global conflicts around the world where real people are dying, and it's horrifying, and it's humanitarian crisis in many parts of the world right now. So I don't mean to diminish those active incidents that are happening, but I think that there's a long-term trend, an undercurrent towards better tolerance, better acceptance, better interactions and communications. And that's really technology's promise, is to bring people together, to make the world smaller, to allow us all to communicate more effectively. And so hopefully that'll be what helps us get things to where we want it to be.
Right, Mike. So the solution I see is for a common man is that when you look at your phone, look at all these things, then you consider them more like, more like an alien movie. And then when you get off the phone, you get into your real life, think what you have seen, but do not actually create a mindset around what you have seen online, which is so much based on, on this click things. And that is one of the things I can understand as a common person. What is your take on this?
I agree. I think, there's a phrase, I think it was Tip O'Neill, an ex-speaker of the US House, who said, all politics is local. And the notion is that that's, really, really the ties that bind are your friends, your family, your neighbors, reaching out to people that you maybe don't know so well, establishing those connections, establishing that trust. It's really important to do. I think that is the fabric of a society, and when those connections diminish, that's when that fabric frays. So I think that is, in short, it's get off your phone and go to your coffee shop, go to your local restaurant, go to your place of worship, whatever it might be, and establish those connections, because those are that after every interaction I have online, I walk away feeling agitated. I feel upset. After every interaction in the real world, I walk away feeling good about it. I feel happy about it. And, that's probably a good way to live your life.
And that says it all, actually, Mike. So, for those people who would want to understand more about the real dangers and about you, about your books, what is the best way for them to connect with you, Mike?
Pick your platform of preference. My website is miketrigg.com with two G's. You can find out more about my books and my other writing there. But I'm on, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, you name it, Goodreads. So wherever you read books and learn about authors and engage with content, you can probably find a presence for me there.
Absolutely, absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Ajay, and thank you everybody for listening.